Hello there, golfer of the Frisbees. Do you often find yourself upset with the conditions of the outdoor? Do you wish that you could head to the field to get those sweet distance gains and be throwing a proper 400? Do you, like my background, feel like your hopes and dreams of ever changing your form are slowly dying? Well, if you've answered yes, then Hot Jiminy is today's video for you. What is up, YouTube fam? Robbie C here. It is day 12 of Vlogmas, and we are back with the next installment of the Get Good at Disc Golf series. Now, if you've been a watcher of this channel for any amount of time, you know that I am a huge believer in field work, but I know that lots of you live in colder climates where you've often found yourself struggling to get to the field due to time constraints, or perhaps you don't even have a good field near you or know where to find a good field that you can go do some field work in. Just to ramp up our amount of times we say field. I want to introduce you to a fantastic place that a lot of disc golfers know about, but probably don't use to their full advantage because they haven't really talked about or heard about a ton of pros to using this space. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we are talking about your garage. Definitely not going to let my wife preview this video because she would kill me for showing the garage in this state. I think there are a tons of pros when it comes to using a garage or a garage-like space to your advantage when trying to make those off-season gains. So here's the game plan for the rest of the video. I want to take a couple moments to talk about the pros of using a garage-like space. Quick pause for our amazing Vlogmas sponsor. Then I'm going to show some snippets of a personal garage session that I was doing to try to work on my distance. And if we don't talk about them throughout the video, I want to close it out by addressing a couple of the obvious cons to this setup. Starting out with the two most obvious pros, if you have your own personal garage in a house, or if you have a garage space in like an apartment or a condo of sorts, this is your dedicated space, so you can allot the time whenever you want to use it. They also usually have lights built into them, so you can do a late night throwing session and get out and use this space when you may not have been able to get out to the field during the day. The second pro is that they traditionally have a concrete or hard surface floor that is relatively flat. This allows you to practice your throwing motion on a solid setup where you're not going to be too worried about digging a hole into the ground after repeated uses. But obviously this does bring up the first con, which is what am I supposed to throw into? And my personal suggestion would be to find yourself a net. Nets can be super affordable depending on how much money you want to spend. I personally got a net that was large enough to cover the whole exit of my garage so that I didn't have to worry about stray discs sneaking out. But if a net is out of your budget, you can easily accomplish the same thing by setting up a couple 2x4s or a plank across and then laying a really heavy moving blanket or something of the sort. Growing up, that was the way my family on a low budget set up a batting cage inside of our house. Like I said, mine's a little bit overkill in terms of covering the entire garage, but I wanted to make sure that no stray discs were making their way out. Once you've got your net or throwing areas set up, the next pro is extremely obvious, and that is the lack of having to go fetch your discs after you throw them. In my fieldwork session, when I was throwing 14 inner cores out into the field, it took me on average anywhere from 2.5 to 3.5 minutes to think about my throw and actually throw them with competency rather than just kind of rapid firing them off. And then took me at least 5 minutes to go fetch all the discs, come back, grab a drink of water, and be ready to go again. So with a little bit of rounding up, it takes about 8.5 minutes for me to get 15 throws in the field. I'm aware you can mitigate that by just throwing more discs at a time, but you still have to go pick all of those discs up, and the more you throw, the higher chance you have of losing them. Let me know in the comments below if you've ever left a disc out in the field during some field work. Meanwhile, here in the garage, I don't have to go pick up or fetch those discs, so rather than having to waste 5 to 6 minutes to go fetch the discs, I can do 2 more rounds of throwing during that time. Even if I include a 60-second water break, I still get more throws in working here in the garage setup. So it's literally just a more efficient use of your time, especially when you're trying to grind in that form change and get your body to subconsciously remember those movements. The fourth pro is something that my garage has and I've seen other people have, and I don't know if it's because it's really old or really bougie, but I actually have heat that gets pumped into my garage, which means that on a cold winter throwing session, I can actually open that vent up and allow myself to warm up a little bit while I'm warming up or throwing the disc. Even if you don't have something like this, if you really want to get after it, space heaters are incredibly affordable, and it's a lot easier to heat a space like this than getting out to a field where it's either covered in snow or it's freezing. All of the weather conditions once again work working against us. But even amidst all of these pros that show you that working in your garage or a garage type space is fantastic, some of you have one major con that you want to talk about. And I know that we want to take a quick moment from this video to talk about a fantastic product that I think is actually really helpful for a lot of disc golfers. Today's video sponsor who helped make this entire Vlogmas dream possible is Flexit. Flexit is a workout product that works a little differently than other products you've heard of before. You can use this product pre-round to help prevent sore muscles, or you can use it after your round to help relieve those joint and muscle pain. If you're like me and you often find yourself using the words sore and disc golf in the same sentence, make sure you check out this amazing product of Flexit MG, and you can find them at all the links in the description below. Welcome back. Don't worry. We'll talk about that con that I mentioned before the sponsor in just a second. Another tool that I really like to use during especially my garage sessions is cones. I can use cones to show the front of my tee pad so that I have a standard launching point, but I also like making my train tracks that Mike Strauss talks about so I can think about keeping the disc on the dance floor to show me that out and in. I've talked about it a bunch of times, but I really hate when I have a distance driver in my hand and it causes me to actually feel like I throw the disc a little bit differently. So especially here in the garage, I can just get used to putting in reps of throwing a driver. So I've got a stack of destroyers that we're going to be throwing into this net. Another side perk of pros is that I really don't need that many discs. No shorter coil there whatsoever. My head was really leaned into that one. I think I'm doing better on shoulder coil. I think my head's still getting active. I want to take a look at the film. I'm noticing when I come here and I try to hit hard, that's where I kind of tense up right here. I can feel the tension in my chest. That felt really good. There we go. It's no coil because, coil's not coming because I'm separating here. So I feel like I've already hit my coil, so I need to be closing. Y'all, that's a revelation right there. Yeah, because I'm separating here, I feel like I've already got my coil, so I'm shortening my coil before I can hit. Yeah. That's why there feels like there's so much more power. Oh, that was it. That was really good. That was good. That was good. All right. Once again, the obvious pros of working here in the garage. I got a ton of reps in a really short amount of time and actually had a light bulb moment to why my coil wasn't happening, and it was due to another issue. Because y'all, this stuff just kind of compounds on itself. That's one reason I really suggest recording everything, is because as you're going through, you can have those light bulb moments and see them enact themselves or carry themselves out across your throws. So I want to do my best to present all sides of an argument, so I want to take a quick second to talk about a couple cons of this setup. The first is one that you probably aren't thinking of, but because I'm a firm believer that you should be recording your throws when you're trying to change your form so that you can actually see if the feel versus real effect is happening. One of the biggest drawbacks to throwing and recording here in the garage is the lack of space to get camera angles. When I'm trying to record throws, my two favorite angles to have are a strict side view and a strict back view. If you had a 2-car or even 3-car garage for you super bougie people out there, or if you were even working in a parking deck, this issue would go away. But in a 1-car garage and just a small house, it's definitely a con and makes the feedback that I get from the video not as effective. Another con is that if you're not careful, because you are getting so many more reps in so much faster, you can avoid taking breaks because you don't get the natural pause of having to go out and fetch your disc. So you can't actually overwork yourself, and that can actually lead to some injury. Even though the discs weren't going anywhere, it wasn't like I wasn't trying to throw, quote, max distance shots even while I was throwing these. I wanted to get the sensation and feel of them ripping off my fingers as they would if I were throwing them out on the course. That's also another fantastic use for today's sponsor, Flexit MG. If you guys want to check it out, I know especially for me, after a session like this where I just did a ton of reps and I'm definitely feeling some tightness in my muscles, Flexit's going to be fantastic for that. But finally, in the most obvious con, Mr. YouTube man, you don't get to see the disc actually fly, so how do you know if it's working? We talked about this a little bit in Fieldwork Day 1, and we even mentioned it a little bit in putting. When I'm trying to make form changes or I'm trying to make technique changes, the results of what's happening matter, yes, but they matter a lot less than getting the feel down down of what I'm trying to work on. I can have really bad form, but be muscling it so hard with my arm that I may be getting 400 or 450 feet of distance. Trust me, I see plenty of videos of people out there on the internet doing it. And for those players, that form works great for them. But if they ever wanted to walk down a more traditional form so that they could pass those plateaus, there's a very real world that they're going to lose a significant amount of distance while still trying to get their proper form. Almost in like a 3 steps back, 400 steps forward kind of a deal. So if I'm solely fixated on watching the disc fly every single time, on wind conditions, based on the type of discs I'm throwing, a lot of that information can be kind of skewed as to whether or not you're making actual solid form changes. That's going to take away some time from grinding in these reps to get this form down subconsciously. So if you love seeing the disc fly, the garage and net setup is probably not for you. But if you are looking to be an efficient human being and change your form in the most efficient way possible, there are few places better to grind in the reps and actually get the practice of releasing the disc, not just shadow steps and shadow swings of throwing the disc. And I want to spin that to close this video out with a little bit of a positive, because you know, that's who we are here. I do think another added pro of doing this is that because I haven't seen the disc fly, I'm not walking into a round or the next time I throw a disc with expectations of, oh, I made this change and I know it's going to add this much of distance to my form. It is meant to be reps and throws to help me cement proper and positive changes into my throw, which in theory will yield me positive results out on the course. So all in all, I hope this video was helpful and gives you guys a little more insight or even help on how you can switch up your fieldwork sessions, especially if you find yourself in some climate areas where, yeah, it's just not great right now. Being not great, probably better for me to come out in front of the camera. I want to say thank you for watching as always. I hope you have an amazing rest of the day. Please make it fantastic for someone else too. We'll see you tomorrow, but for now, we're going to leave you with the birdie.